and you can choose to be the leader you want to be. It's the opportunity to engage the conversation on what you can bring on the table, being who you are. So for a woman who wants to lead their way on a leadership position, build on you, invest on you, and you will make your way.
Welcome to the World Beyond Resilience podcast. I'm Carolyn Gibson.
And I'm Angela Filk, and we are delighted to welcome today Cécile Biasio, who is the Chief Operating Officer, the COO of Airbus Protect, and a founding member of Women in Aerospace, a member of European Women on Boards, and the initiator of Balance for Business, a huge network within Airbus. Welcome, Cécile, and please share anything else you'd like to say about Airbus Protect or anything that we've used to introduce you.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm really delighted to be here with both of you, Angela and Caroline, because this is really important to share our experience and learn from other people. You mentioned my engagement related to gender diversity, which is foundation for me, and which lead me to the courage to go to the type of position in a big corporation like Airbus, because I'm convinced that it's also inspirational for others, not only women, but other people who want to impact in their lives. And I'm really happy to have this conversation today, because I hope that it could help giving you the courage to go and achieve what you want to do in your life.
Thank you so much. You're a real inspiration for, of course, everybody, but definitely for all women thinking of stepping into leadership in a particularly male-dominated industry. And I know that Carolyn has some specific questions for you, but I wanted to start us off on the resilience conversation. And I wanted you to share a little bit about when you first realized you were resilient. Because it's not a word our parents say very often. When was the first time you realized you were resilient, and what did it mean to you?
I think really it was in some sport challenges that I took, and where I found out that there was a lot of routes to go on and build your way, even if there is some difficulties, even if nothing comes as planned. And also having this taste of infinity of possibility to welcome what is come on my plate. So this is also a journey. So I will not be able really to state a particular event, but maybe two of them in my life. One was first, and it's a female experience. Giving birth to my two children was a particular moment of feeling the deep root of power inside me, inside my body, and being totally capable to decide that I was in charge and with this power to make it happen. And the second event also was when I chose to make a marathon. And really the last miles, this is where you can show up and know what is inside you as motivation, because the last miles is painful. And the only way to make it happen is to know your why you are here, what you want to achieve, why you are doing this, and you are really calling the motivation, that what is really inside you. And this is still something that I can, recall this memory when I am feeling the need to say, okay, I can handle this, and this is not something that will put me on my knees, but give me the opportunity to rise and find a way to say, I will welcome this and ground me on these challenges.
It's so interesting that you talk about that, both two experiences that are full of pain, right?
And not only full of pain, because giving birth is really it's collaboration, because my partner was there also totally included in this experience, and it's full of joy and knowing yourself, welcoming, being in a position to welcome what is happening to you. And this is not only painful, there is a part that is painful, of course. And this is quite the same in the big challenges of like sports. At a moment you experience the fact that your body is saying, oh, maybe this is a bit too much. But you can also say, okay, we are able to do this together, your mind, your body, and say, this is not only pain, this is also joy. Because when you are running marathons, there are tons of people who are sending you good vibes, calling you by your nickname, and so on. So this is a mix of emotion, not only pain.
It's a really good point. We've been talking all the way through these podcasts with other women about the difference between struggle and effort. And pain is one of those things where people say no pain, no gain. But what you're describing is much more nuanced, isn't it? It's much more about the importance of having a vision, of knowing where you're going, knowing that there's collaboration, knowing that there's people behind you. There's so much more to it than just the experience of pain, right?
Yeah, totally. The no pain, no gain is something we can choose to ban from our storytelling today. Too much shortcuts that is not even close to reality. It's maybe effort, no gain, maybe, but also no vision, no gain. Okay, you can choose to make an effort, and this will bring you satisfaction because you know why you are doing it, what you will try to find in that experience, in that choice that you made. And also, really a big knowledge was I moved from I have to do that, from I choose to do that. And this is really something you gave me that, Angela. And this is a game changer in the positioning on what you are trying to do in your life. So sometimes, of course, you choose to do hard things, but it's a choice. And sometimes also you are looking at what is in front of you and say, for the moment, this is not something I will choose to do. And this step back, which is a microsecond in your life, in fact, is a game changer.
So a million questions. How do you know when that millisecond comes? Like, do you have little antenna cup that come up that go, oh, I've got to take a tiny step back here and just like,
Yeah. That's first something that you have to practice, and that was quite a challenge because I'm a person who is dedicated to move forward, put everything into actions and so on. And so at the moment in my career, when I was coming to the office, I had the opportunity to park my car on the upper level of the parking lot and having the view all around. And when I was out the car, I chose at that moment just to look at, all the field around me and say, okay, what I want to live today, the good emotion that I want to live with all my colleagues and so on. And this is taking even not 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And that was really important to start my day because at that moment I had like really heavy days with long hours of work to produce a lot of deliveries. And having just this moment, this specific moment at the beginning of the day was a way for me to say, okay, I will, even if there is effort, I will leave some good emotions because I will meet Julien, which is a good guy in my team. I will also provide this information to Frédéric with ease, what's really important because I'm a connector with people and this is good emotion for me. What bring energy to me, I make this mapping of energy providers in my days, and having this step back is also a way to mix the head and also the gut feeling. The head has the tendency to say, you have to do that and so on. And the gut feeling say, well, but maybe this is not the good moment for you because you are a bit tired. You have to make the mitigation and say, okay, I'm not in a good shape, a good energy, but this is an objective of my day. How can I bring some twist to make it easier and change the way to make like a pain in something that is effort plus emotions.
And how do you find that, Cécile, within an organization that you're in? And so I don't want to pinpoint Airbus in particular. I'm thinking of all of these big organizations, right? And particularly in engineering or male-dominated sectors. What is the general attitude towards resilience or the general definition of resilience that you're seeing within organizations, even if with your experience outside? And what is the impact of that, do you think, on women generally as they're moving up in their career?
The storytelling generally about resilience is to say, okay, you will face terrible things that will put you down, and then this will bring you the opportunity to rise again. And so there is this tale that everyone is saying, okay, you will face difficulty, painful moments, and there is a lot of negativity in that process. Of course, there is then the storytelling, I will rise again and be stronger, and so on. And this could be difficult for women, I think for men too, but maybe from the beginning of their lives, we know that there are bias also against males and saying you have to welcome this difficulty, being strong and so on. But for women, it could be difficult because this all painful story, I think this is something that is not giving the woman the opportunity to be really themselves, and probably they will also try to avoid this painful story, saying, okay, no, I don't want to live that way. So of course there is the story and what everyone thinks that we have to live, but we can choose another path. And this is important for women and also for men that are not coping. And also, I think globally, we could live better if everyone was not really coping with this type of advice of way of living.
You're preaching to the converted, I think, of course, with Carolyn and I. It has a dissuasive impact and a negative, even damaging impact on some people. So I'm hearing that the cost can be women or men who are affected by that opting out of leadership entirely, or really suffering from it. And in that case, so what I'm hearing you saying is there's another way. You do have choices, and there is a way of impacting or bringing in the resilience conversation differently.
Yes, because if you are just entering this scenario of a really heavy, painful moments that you are welcoming and still rise up, you can just even imagine the energy that you are losing because you will be put down. So this will drain you energy, and then you will ask you to set up a new energy to rise up again, rather than saying, okay, this is effort where I can find some energy, where I can find some creativity that, okay, give me the opportunity to say this moment is of course difficult, but okay, I have the opportunity to be someone for my colleagues, for my team. Maybe we can also try to identify some positive points on what we are doing today, and not just saying, okay, this will be tough, but we will make it anyway. No, because this is not sustainable at the end. So even the top performer at the moment will be not in a position to sustain this request of this will be tough, but we will make it, like an American movie, No, okay, this will be tough for maybe 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, but at the end, you have to provide another way of living.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that, my instant reaction myself was when you said that when people aren't coping and they want to opt out, and the narrative in your head is, well, they're not, again, the resilience, they're not resilient. There's something negative about that, the fact that they're not coping. But what we're trying to say here is it's the system that's creating the environment by which not just some people aren't coping, but actually everybody's energy is drained. And everybody's suffering. Even if they're coping, they're suffering. And when they're not coping, that's probably a recognition that they're in the wrong environment, is what we've talked about. But it's so hard to get the narrative out of your head, right? To say, if you're not coping, you're not going to be successful, or you're not going to be whatever. And it's really interesting that we're still using that phraseology somehow. We almost need another phrase for not coping.
Cécile's not. She's got another phrase. Hers was exactly no effort, no gain.
Exactly.
No pain, no gain. And linking back to what Carolyn's just said, in everything you've said, there's been, first of all, taking a moment to reframe, but also really being connected to your why and your vision. And I wonder if you want to speak a little bit more about how the why and the vision give you an opportunity also to shift into choice, and also how that might bring out creativity that you were also talking about.
Yeah, this is something that seems sometimes a bit like a theory and build your vision, but I know now that is giving you a directions, and also to not give up when things are not easy or a bit difficult, or you are in doubt, because it happens to everyone. Sometimes say, okay, maybe I'm not at the right position, maybe what I bring on the table is not what is expected. But remembering why you are doing this, and in my particular case, really the things to be a role model in an industry that is still male dominated is important to me. This is something that is also in my roots, because my father was with Italian culture from the south of Italy, with bias to girls and female. The need to demonstrate that I was as capable as a man, as a boy. This started with my relationship with my father, for sure. And the fact that I'm in a male-dominated industry with this ambition to show that we can drive a more balanced organization is also in that path and is in that journey. And that is helping me to make the choice, and also to welcome the fact that maybe I'm not always what is expected as a top manager, or what is in the imagination of what could be a COO today in aerospace. Okay, I'm wearing pink shirts, and I'm really trying to bring some joy everywhere, every day on the workplace. And maybe this is not always what was on the picture when you are asking people to make a drawing of a CEO. So having the vision is also helping me to be a bit different than what is expecting, and to say that that's okay, and I will make it that way.
I love the fact that you're picking up on the fact that many women, when they go into these roles, feel as though they need to emulate what's going on around them to fit in, and that your vision is very much of not doing that, of bringing some of your own, essence and your own values and your own beliefs into the role in a very deliberate way. Do you see many more women doing that these days than perhaps a few years ago?
I think definitely things are changing, also because institutions are trying to set up some rules that put every organization in the path of making room for women. This is something I personally would have liked that the process have been much more natural than putting quotas and so on. But okay, that is a transition phase to make it happen. And I can see that some female are really in a position to come with who they are on the workforce and so on. And that's really great. And I think we are still in that transition where some women are not really comfortable still to be totally themselves and have to enter the frame that is expected and to be welcome in the leadership team. But this is moving. And we can see that the path is accelerating, because there are nominations in every industries. So this is shaking a bit the statu quo, and the fact that we can see also the benefit of having diverse people around the table, and not only people who are trying to achieve something that is a fantasy. My engagement is related to gender diversity, but I can see now everywhere in the workforce that the conversation is entering new perimeter that is also related to other type of diversity, and that we are able now to welcome all type of identities, and that brings added value, because it's not only about equity, it's also a performance topic. And this is a conversation that I try really to enter any moment I can, because we are not talking about just making room for people. It's also, we are trying to build organizations that can be at the top level of the performance, and that is important.
So, Cécile, if we take that as an issue, like or an outcome of diversity performance, and you were talking earlier about, the current narrative for resilience is very much, it's going to be hard, real boot camp, you're going to struggle and then you'll overcome. What do you think then is if we're shifting out of that resilience narrative, which, as you said, doesn't actually help anybody, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for high performance, for men or women, in fact, and many are dropping out early or using work as just a place to come to, then to get the bills paid. What do you think is the shift in narrative then that we need to be having to not only build diversity and have more women in leadership, but have that be the outcome of higher performance?
The first action is to, I think, stop putting gender diversity topic in the responsibility and the RSE of an enterprise, of a company. This is a performance issue and not something that we have to endorse because it's good for society. And so this is a more strategic issue. So this type of topics should be managed by the organization related to performance and strategy in a company, not even human resources, not even human or, RSE engagements. So if a company wants really to impact on that, this is something that should be onboarded on the strategy and developed by the people from the strategy as a strong objective, and be included in the top company objective to be sure that everyone managers is embodied to have results, and with the good storytelling that is not about equity, it's about performance.
And how would the resilience conversation then tie back into that? If we're not talking about, in terms of performance, you have to struggle and that's how you're going to forge your way forward. What do you think the shift then in the resilience conversation? I mean, I'm sure they're not saying this is our resilience conversation. They haven't put that name on it. And yet we are being asked in organizations to be more resilient. It's become a buzzword. So what do you think then needs to shift there?
I think there is still a need to enter the conversation related to diversity as a topic of resilience. This is something that is still related to when we have diversity around the table, we are in a position to resolve some problems in a different ways and so on. But I think now, given the fact also that we have to manage a lot of uncertainty on a lot of topics, being diverse with a diverse culture, diverse ways of thinking, welcoming this challenge to be aligned and different. When you are having the same culture, coming from the same education and having lived the same way, of course you are much more aligned, and the conversation is easier. You have this sense of we are always okay on what we're to do and so on, and having someone else with different view, different background, give you a shake in your ways to say, okay, everything is good, we are aligned. Oh, no. So there is a shake at the beginning. I think this is still a matter of concern in an organization, saying, okay, we have set up a team that is really with different backgrounds and so on, and we have to organize the fact that we are maybe not always aligned, always on the same vision, and still to build a path together. So this is something that needs to be organized, needs to be welcome, and it's a way also to build other type of collaboration and leading teams. So maybe there is a bit of change management to organize in these typical areas and moments of transition, because this is not always, well, I selected different people, now just go on. No, sometimes you have to organize a conversation.
And I'll go back just to the resilience conversation again. You spoke at the beginning of our conversation about being different yourself. And, I'm imagining within a whole organization where we have to struggle to move forward. You're like, no, I'm coming in with my pink shirt and some joy. and and a moment of reflection and looking out forward and being connected to my own purpose and bringing that into a conversation. On a personal level, how difficult has that been for you to bring that in, as we talk about diversity?
A challenge, of course. Some people could not understand your way of being like that, with your joy, the fact that you are not in, expected frame, and have the tendency to say, oh, this person is not professional, she is not at the expectation level. But this is part of the way, and this is part of my role to explain that this is not because you are full of joy that you are not professional. And there is a moment maybe where people around me can say, we are not sure at all, and so on. But then you have your results, you have your performance. You can show that there is a different way of making the things, and that being full of joy, welcoming the effort, and so on, is not also diminishing the fact that you can rise performance from your team. Because I've learned, I know that being like that is a good way to have the trust of your team, the engagement of your team, and also to be in a position to welcome the fact that sometimes they need other things. Some people in my team say, oh, I need more guidance, more maybe more discipline sometimes, and that's okay. I can provide that also. The challenge is really to be in a position to get the job, even if you are like that. Okay, so there is this this challenge of being convincing of you are the right people, even being a little different. This is still something that needs attention on the way you are giving your proposal, and being conscious that you cannot step into this bringing too much energy. So at the beginning, maybe trying to going step by step, and also welcoming the organization that you are coming in, and understanding where they are at the moment in this journey of welcoming people that are little away from the expectation, the frame that was deployed in the company. So there is a moment of respective learning, and being like a cat, step by step, understanding what are the usage, and trying to change the things step by step. Otherwise, it's too difficult, and you don't want your colleagues and your team to be overwhelmed by what you try to bring on the table. So it's a step-by-step approach for sure.
I love the way that you put that, because a lot of the time we feel as though, well, we ought to be just our authentic selves and without realizing, nothing wrong with being your authentic self, right? But not without realizing that every interaction you have is with another person who is also their authentic self, and you're trying to then listen, learn, understand where they're coming from first, so you can reflect on that and try and work out, well, what is then my way of authentically working with those people, so that we're both on the same page, we can both work together. And then as you build trust with them, you can then expand your kind of essence more, if you like, right? Yeah. But we often feel like, well, we just ought to show up as we are, and sometimes that's not compassionate with the environment you come in. Yeah, right? But it doesn't mean you have to change yourself entirely. You just have to be conscious that it's a process.
Yeah, that's a process. The attention that you expect from the other, and the respect of who you are, and so on, you have also to provide it. So at first, really be empathetic on the fact that you have to understand who you have in front of you. And sometimes you are in front of one person that choose to enter the frame, but that does not mean that she's really totally like that. And you have also the opportunity to bring to those people the opportunity to consider the fact that now they can shift a little bit and be a little bit more authentic because they are in a safe place with you. The overall thing, it's related to respect and being open. My conviction is that everyone has something special that I can learn, understand, and that is really important to make the connection and understand what are the ways of working from these people.
And if I tie it back to a beyond resilient conversation within an organization, the inclusivity and interdependence that we're seeing here, which means, you don't have to minimize or compromise your own authenticity. What you're doing at the same time is recognizing that you're interacting within a system and that we are interdependent. And so that requires both self-awareness and social awareness. So it's not an either or, it's me or them, it's we're in this. And again, bringing it back to resilience, in that struggle versus effort, there's very much again, black and white, all or nothing, go hard or go home. And I'm really seeing the subtlety of discernment and minimum viable steps. Very often in that old resilience module, it's like, just take the biggest step you can. And that doesn't leave a lot of room for respect of limits, anybody else's or ourselves. And very much I'm hearing woven into this conversation, this capacity to take the steps that are discerned as being needed in the moment so that everybody has a place. And we spoke about energy in the beginning, like what costs and gives energy. So I'm just wondering if you see an energetic difference in that way of moving forward as well.
Yeah, because for me, connection with the people, relationship with the people is really a way to give me some energy. I'm really happy when I can see that collaboration is running well, that we are connecting, sharing together in some achievements that you want to do collectively and so on. And this is bringing me so much energy. So this way of driving is really important because it brings me the opportunity really to feel this energy in between people. But it can be really different for other ones. So my advice when I'm doing some mentoring with other women that I want to develop and to be comfortable in their development is to say you have to find the list of what give you energy, joy all along the day, the weeks, and cherish and nourish this. This could be tiny things, right? It's not big things. I want to have rainbows when I'm coming at the office and cupcakes on my tables and so on. No, sometimes it's really related to your own really deep needs. And for me, having the coffee on the morning, seeing my teams coming here and a small conversation with them, making the connections, even making my gamble walks over to the sites. This is giving me some energy too. So making the list of what is important to you in your day, giving you energy is really important because there are other topics that will drain you for sure. Sometimes some of them are really drainful. This is not only about painful or joyful and so on. This is just, okay, when I'm doing this, I'm exhausted at the end.
That's an important one. Yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
And so you have to say, okay, I have this activity that is really exhausting me. And just after, so okay, I will place like 15 minute walk all around the place just to connect with the people, have conversation, and then coming back to my office, making more Excel file and reporting and so on and so on. Then you can enter the wheel of draining and refueling, draining, refueling, and so on. And that's also really related to how we choose to shape our days. One thing that is really important for me is to have the freedom of shaping at least a bit of my days. So also I have this review of my calendar, say, okay, this is something that I don't like, this is draining energy. Just after I will put some other type of activity that refuel me. And then you can have like days where you can come back to your house and saying, okay, there was really terrible things on my days, but they were also positive things on my day. So then, and this is balancing and finding your way through the surprise of the days.
I love these tips, but I also love the fact that you've touched upon so many different things in our conversation: the importance of vision, the importance of effort, and no pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. We're not doing that. And also your, most importantly, you can see your joy and your energy in what you bring to your work, which is so different, as you said, from maybe your stereotypical view of what a COO does and is. And so I love the fact that you're here just to show that, just to show everybody that you can bring joy and energy and fun and coffee conversations into your work and make it feel like a wonderful experience and not just a grind.
And it's a choice.
It's a choice.
That is a choice. That's really clearly a choice. Because I could also have choice really to enter the expectation of framing totally to the expected image of top leaders in a corporate organization. But this will come with a price. If you are losing you too much in the fact that you are entering this frame, of course you are less happy of what you are doing, for sure.
Yeah, and that's not what we need in this world.
So thank you.
We're coming to the end of this. Is there anything you want to add before we wrap up?
What I want to add is we need more diversity in our leadership organization. And I want to talk to both the people engaged in the conversation, the one who are selecting the people at the top position of the company. No, you are not taking risk on the fact that you are choosing someone different. Just look at what they can bring on the table, what you need in your puzzle of leadership team, trying to build the best team ever. And this is not selecting only the top performers. This is also about soft skills. And the other side of the table, the ones who can take some leadership position and maybe more on the female part of the people, we need you. And you can choose to be the leader you want to be. It's the opportunity to engage the conversation on what you can bring on the table, being who you are. So for a woman who wants to lead their way on a leadership position, build on you, invest on you, and you will make your way.
Thank you for being such a beacon of inspiration and hope and joy and a pathway forward for other women and diversity and leadership for the better of everybody, for performance, for organizations, for all of us. Thanks so much, Cécile.
Thank you, Caroline and Angela. That was really a great pleasure to be here today.
So, Angela, we just had a fantastic conversation with Cécile Biasio from Airbus Protect. And oh my gosh, there was so much in there that she brought so much wisdom and so much joy. What did you take away from that conversation?
I took off a whole list that I could rattle off, and I'm going to try not to rattle off a list so we can really have a conversation. I'll speak to two things. First, there's a lot that listeners can take from this conversation. The thing that particularly touched me is something that has actually been my experience. It's this possibility of bringing joy and being dismissed or passed over because of my joy, because joy is being seen through the filter of, well, if you're joyful, then you're disconnected from reality and you don't know how to work hard and you'll never have high performance. Having Cécile bring that back into the conversation as joy as an energy giver and therefore a contributor to high performance was fantastic. I want everybody to hear that you should never diminish your joy, but cultivate it because it's actually a factor in high performance.
Absolutely. And what I loved about it is here she is the CEO of this organization, and she so demonstrates it, right? It came out in everything that she was saying. She was just so light and joyful and yet still making some really important points about performance, right?
And she's a highly competent woman who's demonstrated her professional acumen and performance right the way through her career. And so you don't have to compromise joy to do that. Is fantastic. And I think organizations need to hear that as much as individual people do.
Absolutely. And redefining what she's working on, redefining what performance means, and bringing that diversity into that is just something that recently has been maligned a little bit, and we need to counteract that narrative right away. It's like, forget that. We're not going back.
Yeah, we're not going back. The diversity's been transactional, just box ticking, rather than really recognizing that it is good for everybody. It's a key factor, again, in high performance and great results. Yeah. And that, if we bring it back to our resilience conversation, it redefines the importance of interdependence and how diversity is what brings the power. And that we find our strength, our true strength in diversity, because strength leads to performance as well, right? To healthy, nourishing, sustainable growth for everybody.
Yeah. But the key to that, and that's what she was very explicit on, is that because everybody brings something different, you have to look for what they bring rather than what they don't bring.
Yeah.
And I think that's, when I was most recently managing a team, people, my goodness, the variety of experience people had, and not everybody could do everything, which was fine, right? What you actually wanted was knowing which person to go to for what you needed. And it could be the soft skills, it could be the Excel skills, it could be the networking, it could be the upward management, it could be the downward management, any of those things. And, the diversity of experience, the diversity of your life brings you those strengths that you can then bring to an organization. You shouldn't need to hide them under a barrel or try and meet the sort of unnecessary expectations of that resilient mindset.
Totally. It's totally agree. Strengths are we shouldn't hide our strengths under a barrel. In fact, we should really be leaning into them. And that's what allows us to thrive, all of us. What else did you get, Carolyn, that was important to you that you think?
Well, I know we both resonated with this very much, but she started out the conversation with the two very painful stories, right? And I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to say pain is great. And she didn't. That's what I loved, right? Yeah. She was like, definitely no pain, no gain. I was like, phew, that's how I feel so strongly. And the fact that you have to have that vision, that clarity of vision to get you through the effort, to turn that feeling of pain into one of effort.
Mm-hmm. Right? Exactly. Yeah.
And she was so clear on that.
And recognizing that, suffering or pain, at least, is a part of life. Like having a child, having had 3, man, it hurts. Martha Beck actually talks about clean pain and dirty pain. And clean pain is that thing that, like, pain is a natural part of life. If you cut your arm, it hurts. Yeah. Suffering is when you add to it, and you're not recognizing either the deeper why or the deeper what. And so you're just focused on the next obstacle and overcoming, and pain is noble, and, let's boot camp ourselves out of here. And it's very short term, and it's not sustainable. And that's what the dirty pain, she'd call it. And the clean pain is, right, we've got a moment here that's challenging, or all right, this happens every now and again. There's always going to be a moment where it's harder than others, but our mindset doesn't have to be in suffering all the time. And that's not noble. And that's what Martha Beck would call the dirty pain. It's only linked to, I have to suffer, or you're going to do this hard. Which, all
the shoulds.
The shoulds. Yeah. And it's not sustainable for anybody. And it definitely doesn't lead to high performance either. No. I did a talk on this recently. No pain, no gain. Is it really the way to excellence? And it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
And I love, in the middle of all of those very, very important ideas, she gave some really great day-to-day tips, right? Taking a moment at the beginning of the day to find where you're going to find your joy throughout the day, making sure, I think you said you called this an energy audit. So looking at your calendar and where is it that you're going to have to make some effort, and then how are you going to rejuvenate yourself afterwards, and what you're going to do about it, and just trying to, like, really very methodically thinking through your day each day, and giving yourself that permission, the choice to do things a little differently.
You just touched on that word, choice. It's very tempting to think that we don't have a choice. So it could be for someone in Cécile's position as COO that she doesn't have time to have a choice because she's got the tyranny of the to-do list and too many people to see. And yet, she mentioned that was a game changer for her, recognizing that she had a choice. And somebody who comes in maybe at the beginning of their leadership journey might say, well, I don't have a choice because I have to perform and do what I'm told. And sure, you have obligations to fulfill and objectives to reach. And you always have a choice. And that choice is to take a moment to step back and reframe and re-become master of at least the moment.
Yeah, I just have to say, because having worked with people in her position in my previous job, the ability to keep your diary in that shape is, you have to have very, very strong support from your team.
Yeah.
To be able to just keep those moments clear for yourself. And hats off to her that she manages that, because I've seen the diaries fill up with 3 or 4 meetings back to back, not back to back, but at the same time, overlapping, right?
Yeah.
And it's so hard. So having, her tips on how to do that, knowing that she can do it in her position, means you can do it, our listeners, you can do it in your position, right?
Well, we did some interesting coaching around that. And that was part of the program that I did at Airbus at the time, was recognizing how we buy into to-do list tyranny. And I mean, so we won't go off onto that tangent. The choice is available, I think, was the point. And it's a game-changing point, and the challenge to you out there to increase your energy, to be able to be more performing and not just productive for the organization, but to have that sense of energy flow and capacity within your own life. It really starts with that. So it was a great conversation.
I just want to reinforce what she said at the end. Women and men leaders out there who are looking at the system and saying, this resilience stuff is not for me, I feel like opting out. There is another way. Put yourself forward. We can change the system. You can see that Cécile is doing that herself. Let her be a beacon for all of us to challenge and change.
Wonderful. I think that's a great place to leave this conversation, and we hope you enjoy it and that you come away with some wonderful tips and reflection points for yourself as well.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the World Beyond Resilience podcast.
If anything you heard today sparked an aha moment or made you think differently about resilience, please tell us about it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
And please share it with everyone you know.
For more episodes exploring how we can thrive beyond just bouncing back, follow our show on your favorite platforms.
And of course, we have additional resources and deeper dives into all the topics we discuss on our website, which is worldbeyondresilience.com.
So we absolutely love this topic, and we can see the possibility for this to create really powerful, vibrant, prosperous change in organizations and systems. So if this conversation interests you and you start to feel that spark as well, and you think it would be useful for yourself or within your organization, feel free to get in contact. So until next time, remember, there's a whole world of possibilities beyond just being resilient. Take care.